Good morning. This is the Keeping It Real Sunday School class from Cornerstone Baptist Church in Richland, Missouri. I'm Dr. Max Thornsberry, and I am the teacher, and my wife Brenda will be reading the scriptures for us this morning from the Authorized Version, the King James Version of the Bible. We are going to study today about betrayal, and we're going to look at a biblical incident of betrayal that's recorded in the book of Genesis. How we're to respond to that, what we're to do with it. This is not a very fun lesson, I can tell you that. This lesson is not fun. There's nothing about it that's going to be fun. Really not even anything about it that I think is going to be beneficial for us. But it has a lot of interesting history, and I'm a history buff, so we're going to look at the history of this thing. A little bit of history. Remember Abraham? God chose him to be the father of many nations. Abraham had one son of promise, Isaac. He had another son by Hagar, Sarah's handmaiden, and he took Hagar as his wife, and he had a child, Ishmael. He eventually ran Hagar and Ishmael off because they were interfering with the son of promise, Isaac. Isaac then, if you remember, married Rebekah, and Isaac had a set of twins, Esau and Jacob. Jacob then went to marry the woman he loved, which was Rachel, and his father-in-law tricked him into marrying Leah, and 7 years later he finally got to marry Rachel. And Leah gave Abraham a concubine, and Rachel gave Jacob. Did I say Abraham a while ago?
Yeah.
Leah gave Jacob a concubine, and Rachel gave Jacob a concubine. And so he had children from 2 wives and 2 concubines, about as a dysfunctional a family as you could ever hope to come up with, and still be considered somewhat godly. There are certain individuals in the family that certainly weren't godly, and you're going to find out here in a minute. Now, to keep all this history straight, I'm going to have Brenda read from Genesis chapter 35, and I'm going to have her read verse 22 through 26, Brenda.
And it came to pass, when Israel dwelt in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12, the sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, and Levi, and Judah, and Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. And the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Padanaram.
Now, did Jacob have daughters?
Probably.
He had one daughter, Dinah.
Mm-hmm. And
that's an ugly story. Absolutely ugly. Instigated by Judah. Dinah was looked on with favor from a Hivite prince. And the Hivite prince took her by force. And then he loved her and went to Jacob and asked to marry her. And Judah said, well, before you can marry her, you have to get circumcised. And so, oh yeah, they'd get circumcised. All the men, the Hivite men, got circumcised because the prince loved Dinah. And while they're laid up from their surgery, Judah and the sons came in and killed them all. Every last one of them. And took Dinah back home.
That's pretty ugly.
That's an ugly story.
Mm-hmm.
A really ugly story. There's another ugly story in there about Judah, and there's an ugly part of this story about Judah. And yet Christ is the Lion of the tribe of Judah.
Mm-hmm.
So these were imperfect people. Rachel could not have children for a long, long time. I was going to have you look up and explain to us what a concubine is. Did you ever do that?
No, I didn't, so you can do it now.
Well, I'll be darned. I give you one little assignment and you don't complete it.
I made cookies yesterday.
Well, you did. You made cupcakes too.
I did.
What is a concubine? Boy, that is a difficult question to answer. In essence, Bilhah and how did you pronounce her name? Zilpah?
Zilpah.
Zilpah were slaves to Leah and Rachel. They were their own personal slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not telling you that this is not illegal in this day and age to have more than one wife and for wives to have slaves. And because there was a period of time in Leah's life where she was barren, she had children, and then she was barren a while, she gave Bilhah, have I got that right? Leah was Bilhah's. Bilhah was Leah's.
No, Zilpah.
Zilpah. And then she had Asher and Dan. And
no, you've got that wrong.
All
a
right.
little bit wrong.
Tell me what it is.
The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, were Dan and Naphtali.
Okay.
And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, were Gad and Asher.
All right. Well, anyway, Jacob then takes these women to be his wife. So now he has 4 wives, but the Bible calls 2 concubines and 2 wives.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the children of this arrangement are all his sons. They're equal.
Mm-hmm.
They're not looked on any differently. Rachel was barren for much of her life, and she prayed and she prayed, and that's why she gave her handmaiden to Jacob, so she could have children in her household. And she finally was pregnant. She had Joseph. And then much later, after Joseph, she had Benjamin. And she died right after she had Benjamin. And she was the wife that Jacob loved. Now Jacob showed great favor to her, so much so that Leah made the comment to Rachel that Reuben had gone out and found some mandrakes. I'm not sure what a mandrake is. I should have looked that up. Some sort of plant that's real succulent. I think it's the root of a cattail, actually. And brought them back, and Rachel had asked her if their household could have some. She says, "No, you stole my husband. You don't get any of these mandrakes." You know, there was great animosity between them. And in any case, Jacob showed partiality not only to Rachel, but to her children, and in particular to Joseph. And he basically made Joseph a coat of many colors. Now, this coat, the reason why this coat is significant, to have a coat of many colors, you had to have some very expensive cloth and dye, particularly to get the blues and the purples out of it. And this was a coat of authority and a coat of prominence, and it showed that Jacob favored Joseph excessively. And to add to that, Joseph had a couple of dreams. And we're going to look at those dreams as we look in Genesis chapter 37. Now, Joseph is 17 years old here, Brenda. These are the last 2 children that Jacob has. These other men are in their 40s, their 30s, their 20s, the other brothers. Benjamin is just a little bitty kid, and Joseph is 17. And Jacob sends Joseph out to find the brothers where they're taking care of livestock. And the Bible says that he went 60 miles to find them. And so we're going to start here with chapter 37. Understand that Jacob made some major mistakes here, Brenda. You should never show favoritism to your children, right?
No, that's not a good idea.
The firstborn should always be favored.
I don't think that's the way.
Oh, yeah.
No.
That's biblical.
Oh, okay. Well,
and they're supposed to get all the inheritance, too.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
That's biblical.
All righty.
That's why it was so important about Esau selling his birthright to Jacob.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
If I had multiple wives, God forbid, should I show favor for one over the other? Maybe she's a better cook. Maybe she keeps a cleaner house. Maybe she's more beautiful.
You know, this discussion in this day and age with you married to one wife is basically irrelevant.
You understand how dysfunctional this thing is?
Well, yes, absolutely.
It is just an absolute mess. Do you now know why God said male and female created he them? Mm-hmm. Marry your wife, cleave to her. As Jesus told the Sadducees, you do err greatly. Mm-hmm. From the beginning, God intended for there to be one man and one woman in holy matrimony. So anyway, let's look at Genesis 37, verse 1 through 5.
And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a sojourner in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives.
Now
and
notice I said there, these concubines are his wives. This wasn't something that he did illegally for the day and time.
Right.
Rachel gave Zilpah, and Leah gave...
the other way around.
The other way around.
Yeah, but anyway.
Well, it's hard to keep all those names straight. But anyway, they were their slave, and they gave these slaves to Jacob. So they are actually elevated in life as an equal wife.
Correct.
All right? And it says right there, they're his wives.
And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report.
Now, what does that mean, evil report, Brenda? They were doing something they shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
They may have been stealing livestock. Maybe they weren't taking care of the cattle. I don't know, but there was something they weren't doing right. And Joseph comes back to Jacob and tells him about it. There's the first nail in the coffin right there.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when
Second nail.
Yeah. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him, and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet the more.
Now you can see this animosity building up over time. The dysfunctionality of the family, with Jacob showing favor, Joseph being loyal to his father and telling his father what these other guys are doing. And these are guys in their 20s and 30s, and maybe Reuben was already 40. I'd have to go back and look at all the numbers and calculate up. I mean, these weren't kids. These aren't kids out there taking care of the livestock. These are full-grown men with families. And why do you think that they looked down on Joseph so significantly that the Bible would say, and they hated him?
Well, it was obvious that he was the favored child. And I'm sure that this wasn't the first instance of them noticing it. But when he came out with that beautiful coat, that was, all right, now we really hate him.
Now, this coat is a robe.
Yeah, I know that.
It's like a royal
It wasn't
robe.
like, it's not like
a Carhartt coat.
Not Dolly Parton's coat of many colors.
It goes all the way down to the wrists and all the way down to the ankles. And it covers the entire body. Now, it's not something you'd work in. You know, you wouldn't go out there and keep sheep and work cattle and cut wheat with this coat on. But you could strut around with it on. You could strut around, and that's what Joseph did. Now, is he at fault here? Is Joseph at fault?
He may have brought on some of the hatred, but, I mean...
Didn't do anything wrong.
He didn't really do anything wrong, except his dad gave him a coat.
Son. It's just like being the firstborn. What can I do? I can't help that I'm the firstborn and the best.
Yeah.
It's not possible to do anything about that.
No,
Facts are facts, you know. No brag, just fact.
You want me to make you a coat of many colors?
No, I don't want a coat of many colors. Anyway, you have to understand how dysfunctional things are here. And the Bible is telling you plainly what it was. And it's a combination of Jacob, it's a combination of Joseph, and it's a combination of his brothers. You know, if Joseph, a 17-year-old, about the dumbest thing in the world is a 16-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl. You know, he's strutting around in this coat. He's strutting around in it.
Not a good idea.
Now,
it gets worse.
It gets worse. Let's look at these dreams that he had, Brenda. I want you to continue reading at verse 6.
And where do you want me to read to?
We're going to read all the way down to verse 19.
And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood around about, and made obeisance.
Means they bowed down.
I know, they bowed down to my sheaf. And his brothers said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars obeyed me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? And his brethren envied him. But his father observed the saying. And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, Do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, Here am I. And he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What seekest thou? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, They are departed from here. For I heard them say, Let us go down to Dothan. And Joseph went down after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said one to another, Behold, this dreamer cometh.
Now, isn't that something? They took those sheep down there to Dothan, Alabama.
Really?
They sure did. I've been to Dothan, Alabama.
Did you see him?
I didn't see any evidence of them.
Yeah.
Saw lots of red dirt.
Yeah.
My dad told me when I was just a young kid, he said, Son, don't tell everything that you know. Keep some things to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they might be right, even though they might be real, how people are going to respond to what you tell should help to determine how much you reveal. Keep some cards hid in your vest.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't tell everything you know. Boy, Joseph could have followed that teaching and done quite a bit better with himself, couldn't he?
Yes, probably.
Now, the dreams are real.
Mm-hmm.
The dreams are going to come to pass. The Lord is revealing to him the place that he's going to put Joseph in. But boy, did they get upset when they heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Brenda, 19 through 24, please.
Come now, therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, and deliver him to his father again.
Now, that little sentence there,
Yeah.
that's Reuben saying
Thinking,
to himself, I'll go back and get him
him.
out of the pit and take him. Now, why do you think Reuben at this point in time is interested in saving Joseph and taking him back to his father?
Well, for one thing,
Reuben is the oldest son.
Okay, he's the oldest son, but he knows how badly this will hurt his father. So
Well,
he wants to
reason.
help.
There's another reason.
Okay.
Reuben lay
Oh yes.
sexually with Bilhah. Bilhah. And you read about it back there. And Joseph knew
Yes,
it, didn't
yes.
do anything about it. Reuben is the oldest son, probably 40-ish. And he sees this as an opportunity to possibly redeem himself a little bit. You're going to find at the end of Jacob's life, as he blesses the sons, I'll go back and read it, we'll go back and read it in a minute at the end of the book of Genesis, that Jacob has not forgotten what Reuben did. This is a great sin. A great sin. Now, Belial was not, what's her name?
Bilhah.
Bilhah was not related to Reuben, all right? Reuben's mother was Leah, but Bilhah was Jacob's legal wife. So that means he's lying with his stepmother. Bad, 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 bad. Not only bad, but a death penalty worthwhile crime in this day and age in this Eastern culture. He should have been put to death. And Jacob did not do that. Now, I don't think Reuben liked Joseph any better than anybody else did in this group. These are full-grown men. This is a 17-year-old kid. But he has intention of saving him, and he kept them from killing him right there at that point in time. Their intention was to kill him as soon as they saw him. Ah, here comes the dreamer. We're going to take care of this. Now, why do you think they had an interest in killing their younger brother? I mean, Cain killed Abel, and this has been down through the time. God said Abel's blood cried out from the ground. I mean, this is fratricide as well as murder, and oh my goodness, this is the nth degree horrible, and yet they're willing to follow through with this. Why do you think?
Well, it said they conspired amongst each other, so they all had to kind of agree.
Yeah, there's 11
except for what Reuben wanted to do, but pure jealousy, for one thing.
Didn't they get the interpretation of a dream where Joseph stands up before them and they all bow down to him?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean, yeah.
Can this not be a method to make sure that dream doesn't come
Well, of
to
course.
pass?
Sure.
And that's literally going to happen in the end of when they go to Egypt. They're literally going to bow down and do exactly what that dream said they were going to do.
Yeah.
And Joseph is going to have their life in his very hands. You meant it for evil, he said, but God meant it for good. Well, it's a process that God is utilizing. You think God condones all these horrible things that are taking place here?
Well, of course not.
You think he condones Joseph's arrogance and conceitedness and narcissism? No. You think he condones what Reuben's going to do, try to save his life to make himself look better? Do you think he condones what these other 10 brothers are going to do? They want to just flat out kill him and throw him out into the lions. No, he doesn't condone any of that. But all things work together for the good, right? To them that love the Lord and are the called according to his purposes. God is going to take these horrible events, these horrible circumstances, and he's going to work them out. Why? So the Messiah may come. We're going to see something about this man Judah here in just a minute. And please continue.
And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread. And they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead.
Now that's their cousins.
Okay.
You understand? That's their cousins. That is Jacob and Esau's descendants of their first cousin Ishmael.
Came from Gilead with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry
second cousin. First cousin to Isaac, third cousin to Jacob, fourth cousins to these men. Okay.
They came with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content.
So Judah is the one, while Reuben is gone now, Reuben's not with them. Judah says, well, let's sell him to these cousins of ours, these Ishmaelites. And then they eventually took him down and sold him to the Midianites, and the Midianites sold him to Potiphar, and so the story of Joseph begins in Egypt. Becomes second in command to Pharaoh only. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely phenomenal. And Judah is going to get Perez. Perez is going to come by him lying with his son's wife. His son had died, and she had twins. One of them is Perez, and Perez is going to beget, can't remember my genealogy, but eventually there's going to be Boaz in there, and then there's going to be King David. So from this man Judah, who has just sold his 17-year-old brother into slavery, is going to come the Lion of the tribe of Judah. From this horrible event that took place with Judah and his son's wife, you're going to get Perez, which starts the scarlet thread. Boaz is going to marry Ruth, a Moabitess woman, idol-worshiping, child-sacrificing woman. Rahab is going to be in this scarlet thread. And on it goes. So we see evidence here that God takes these horrible things that happen in the lives of these people and He works them out to the good. His purpose here is that out of all of this evil and all of this betrayal and all this dysfunction comes the Messiah from the lineage of David, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Jesus, Jesus, thou Son of David, have mercy on me, blind Bartimaeus shouted out. You understand the significance of this?
Well, of course.
The significance of this lineage. With all of its warts, all of its problems and difficulties, God has worked out His perfection from it. Mm-hmm. Now, it means that people must be malleable for that to happen. When Judah bows down before Joseph, while they eventually make it to Egypt, Judah is the one that is really looking out for the family, for the children, and for the wives. And it's just, I think, a fascinating thing to look back through all of this ugly history and see that God is working out for His purposes what He intends to have happen.
God's plans will come to fruition, no matter how badly people mess things up.
Yep. One of the things that I think we gather from all of this is that it's very important for us to be honest with God about our shortcomings, about the things that make our personality kind of quirky. Mm-hmm. You know, every person is made different, and that we control some of those things. Like my dad taught me, don't tell everything you know. Don't make a fool of yourself. Just because it's right and true, everybody don't need to know about it, right? And the other is that there are times that we really need to pray for people that we know are finding themselves in a circumstance that's going to be ugly. We know the outcome of that is going to be ugly. And instead of saying, well, get what you deserve, made your bed, lie in it, we should be praying for those people that God would have His way with them. Because God's plan is certainly much different than what it might appear to be to the world and even to the person involved. And then something I think is very important. These 10 brothers, Reuben gone, Joseph in a cistern over here, conspire among themselves to kill him. And Judah then convinces them not to kill him but to sell him into slavery. And then they take a goat and kill it and put the blood on the coat and take it back to Jacob and lie to him. And I asked the question, did Jacob have daughters? During the time that Jacob is mourning Joseph's death, the Bible says that his sons and daughters came to him to comfort him. Mm-hmm. But the only daughter we ever have mentioned is Dinah, because of the circumstances behind her rape. We don't really know. Remember that when Jesus is at the well in Samaria, the woman of the well says, is your water greater than this water from our father Jacob's well? Mm-hmm. So Jacob had many descendants, many generations down through time, many of which we are not privy to their names or what happened to them. You may experience betrayal, brokenheartedness, difficulty, trials, tribulations in your lifetime. And lots of those things are very difficult to forget. You remember that it says when Joseph faced his brothers and they bowed down to him and they were so afraid he was going to have them all killed that he went back behind the stage where he was at, and the Bible says he wept bitterly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wept bitterly. He is in a position to get his revenge, and he does not take it. Remember, the Bible says, and Jesus himself, that revenge is mine, saith the Lord. I will repay.
Vengeance.
Vengeance, which is revenge. Well, I told you this wasn't going to be a fantastic lesson, but I think the history alone makes it very interesting. You may experience some betrayal in your life. Do you know, Brenda, to have betrayal, it has to be someone close to you.
Well, yes, it has to be somebody that you trust.
It has to be a spouse. It has to be a children, maybe parents. To have betrayal, it has to be someone that you put complete trust in. And I wonder how many times we betray God in our life because of the way we act, the way we live, or what we do, or how we respond. And we have to have the ability, like Joseph, we may never forget it. We certainly don't condone it. Joseph said, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. You don't condone it. You don't cover it up. You don't enable it, is the word I was looking for last week. You don't enable it. You deal with it. But sometimes it's better not to tell everything you know. See you next week.